regular board meeting for the Wenatchee School District, our first of 2026. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Esta junta se lleva a cabo en inglés, pero contamos con servicio de traducción. Si alguien gusta hacer un comentario público o recibir explicaciones en español, por favor indique su necesidad. We'll now work through the agenda. Board, are there any proposed changes or modifications to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda were sent to the board and posted online last week. The board has had the opportunity to review the materials and ask the superintendent any questions they have about any items on the consent agenda. The consent agenda for this meeting includes the minutes for the 12/16/25 regular meeting, vouchers and payroll, personnel report, contracts, field trips, and the October financial report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, has been moved by Julia, seconded by Mark. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of adopting the consent agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Bright spots. So I'm gonna turn it over to Corey for the bright spots for tonight.
Excellent, thank you so much. Our bright spots at each board meeting gives the school board of directors and I an opportunity to highlight a celebration in the district and honor the work that is happening in order to intentionally remind us of the promise to our students from our strategic plan and to illustrate why we so passionately engage in this work. Tonight we have a couple of representatives from Wenatchee, City of Wenatchee Junior City Council, so we're thrilled to have Isabella Garcia and Betsy Espinoza with us tonight to tell a little bit about their journey as junior council members. We also have council members Atkinson and Navarro Gomez with us too. Thanks for joining us this evening and supporting. But ladies, we'd love to have you come up to the podium and you can share a little bit about your story. Thanks so much for being here. And special thanks to Isabella, who is also on our Superintendent Advisory Council and one of our AEM students as well. She helped orchestrate and organize being here tonight, so I appreciate that. Thanks, ladies.
Yes, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I just want to say hello to everyone. It's nice to see some familiar faces. I want to take a moment to thank the board for making some time for us, and as well, I'd like to thank Dr. Corey Kalahar for inviting me and Alex, but unfortunately he couldn't be here today because he has other commitments. But we do have Betsy, so I'm really excited to hear what she has to say as well. So my name is Isabella Garcia. I'm a junior at Wenatchee High School, but also I serve a 2-year term on the Junior City Council. For some context, I applied and was selected for a 2-year term with the Junior City Council, which has given me the opportunity to learn a little bit more about how local government works, more specifically here in Wenatchee, and also how students can engage a little bit more in civic engagement. So during our meetings, we receive educational presentations on topics such as different forms of government, public policy, and most recently we've been learning a little bit more about how parliamentary procedure works, which is going to benefit me a lot when I continue to attend future board meetings. Another thing that this city council being a part of it has helped me do is connect more with the people in my community. I've been involved in most recently a focus group for the City of Wenatchee's museum. And the way that my voice was leveraged in there was that we all sat in a circle and got to share what we thought about the museum and how it could improve, and also how it can be more tailored toward the youth. So that was a really cool experience, and as I continue to be a part of this Junior City Council, I hope that my voice can be leveraged in different ways. And my experience will continue to grow. And also, I would love to learn more about our sister city, which I plan on attending subcommittee meetings. So I'm really excited about that. So yeah, thank you. That's all to Betsy.
Hey, hi, my name is Betsy Espinoza. I am a sophomore at Wenatchee High School. My little script is probably not as good as Isabella's. applied for to be in junior city council, almost expecting not to get in because a lot of kids want this opportunity. But in my past, I've had a lot of experience with leadership and politics, like going into Olympia in the PH program. That was something that really wanted me to push further into working with the city. And so when I got the call that I was gonna, if I wanted to be in junior city council, I took it as an opportunity to try to use my leadership to benefit everybody who lives in Wenatchee. And as a student who went to a charter public school, Pinnacle's right here, our voices were heard, but not as much as other students' voices. And as an advocate and for charter schools, I wanted to make an impact on not just the students at Pinnacles, but for the students everywhere. And so far, the experience on the Junior City Council has been a really fun experience because I get to learn things that I never knew existed. And I got to meet new people, and that is, I think, an incredible opportunity. And I think we have the privilege to be able to be in a committee that allows little children to have their voices. So I thank you for having us here, and I hope you have a good rest of your night. Thank you.
Guys.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, ladies. Do any of the board members have any questions or comments that they want to share?
I mean, you guys have kind of escaped already. I'm gonna give you one anyway. Do you guys vote, or do you have like an advisory vote, or do you have some way kind of participate in the actual city council meetings?
Okay. So the way that we vote, I guess, is some people pass a motion, but we don't vote like actually like on the city council. We are like invited to attend on a quarterly basis, but we can obviously go to like everyone if we choose to go, but we don't actually vote.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Do you guys have any more questions?
Betsy, yours was just as good as Isabella's. Good job. Do you know how competitive the application process was? And maybe Maida or Charlie can help us.
Yeah, we had 14 applicants, which for the first year was pretty, I thought was, and we rolled it out later than we would have liked. But, and we could only choose 9. We have 7 members and 2 alternates. And it was very difficult. They were all very, qualified. So having to say no to 5 was not easy. We encouraged them to stay on our list because we anticipated that there might be some attrition. However, 4 months in, we've done really well, and the students have been engaged, and those who've had to miss a meeting have informed us, and we've had a quorum every time, and not had we've had a full slate with the alternate, so yeah, it's been good.
And the only thing that I would add is we had very little time to get this first cohort going, but I think one thing that we take pride in is that we reached out not only to public schools, charter, private schools in hopes of really getting a better representation of what our community is here, but we're just fortunate to have these girls on board, and we have a great group of students and future leaders.
Well, I want to say thank you to the City Council because this is something that some of us have been advocating for the school board for a few years. And I think within the city and local government, you guys are definitely setting up our students and setting the example on how it could positively impact a city education. And kudos to Betsy and Isabella for, gosh, you guys are so well spoken and continue doing the good work.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll just say thank you, council members. Thank you for joining and supporting, and all of the great communication you've had with me as the superintendent. So I just appreciate that. And ladies, wonderful job tonight. And thank you for sharing your story. And families, thank you for being here to support your students as well. So student voice is something we need to leverage, and we should be leveraging. And so this is great, powerful work. Thank you very much.
All right, that moves on to citizen comment. Kim, do we have anyone? Okay. That page. that means we're at special presentations.
Special
We don't have to look
presentations.
at.
Hey, let's do this. Wonderful. Oh, and Liz, let me grab the.
Hi, Diana. Nice to see
What's
you.
that? Okay, we're gonna do this. Okay, and I never use it well anyway, so it's we're gonna punt here. So
We didn't want to say it.
yeah, I'm just saying myself. It's fine.
Fair enough.
Thank you for this time, President Jackson and school board meetings. The 26-27 school year will be the 4th year of intentional budget reductions for the Wenatchee School District due to declining enrollment, inflationary factors, and this year federal funding uncertainties. We know this work well. We plan this work annually, and because we make the necessary projections for the process. Sean will have an updated enrollment report later for you on January 27th at our next board meeting. And I really want to kind of center the conversation tonight, which is near and dear to me, is that it's around people. And people are the important part of our conversation this evening. We're doing the right work to align our budget and our staffing to declining enrollment and cuts in funding. However, we have amazing staff who work directly with our incredible families and our amazing students who are impacted by these conversations. So it's just a reminder that the work is really hard. And so I'll be showing numbers and graphs, but we'll try to ground ourselves in the conversation that this is also people. Okay, next slide, please. It's gonna get really fun, Liz, when there's multiple clicks on each slide, so we're just gonna have this great energy. It's gonna be awesome. I want to start tonight by clarifying the difference between our operating budget, which is the topic of this evening, and then bond funds, which we'll be asking for from our community later in the year to fund a new Wenatchee High School and HVAC systems throughout the district. I just noticed you're all alone now. Are you okay? We're with you. Okay. Okay. So if you can see here on the slide, we have our operating budget, our day-to-day, and just kind of a little bit of information about what that really is and the funding that supports that as well. So our operating budget funds our day-to-day operations, all of our student support, and our staffing. It comes from a combination of state funding, federal allocations, and local levies, which we'll show in a little bit more detail in some of the graphs that come up. The amounts are based on student enrollment and the special needs of our students, such as poverty, disabilities, and limited English language skills as well. And what the operating budget can't do is it cannot build new schools, it cannot replace facilities, cannot support any large-scale construction nor pay long-term debt. So we really want to make sure that that is clear in our conversation. Bonds we know are for building. They are voter-approved funding to build or modernize school buildings. They are long-term debt that's taken on by the school district over 15 to 30 years, paid by local property taxes. Bonds cannot pay for teachers' salaries or staff salaries, supplies, daily operations, instructional programs, nor administrative costs, and they cannot backfill budget shortfalls. So just want to set up the stage for that clarification so there's no confusion. Now, if someone tunes in now, there could be confusion. Okay, but we're going to move forward with the idea that we've explained that. Can I have the next slide, please? And this is a graph that you have seen before when we've talked about Budget 101 for school districts, but all of the numbers have been updated to represent our current year. And so it's a good clarification, and it's timely that we outline where our funds come from. So you can see the breakdown between our state, local, and our federal dollars there. As you can see here, the bulk of our $133 million budget comes from state funding at 77%. And our federal funding comes in at 9.4%, and local funding at 13.4%. Next slide, Liz. There's a lot on this slide, but the reason that we really want to share this is a large portion of our general fund supports staffing costs, up to 82.6%, as this slide represents. And the slide grounds us back in that conversation of people. When we talk about budgets, we talk about people because 82% of our budget goes to people in our system. So the slide truly represents the wonderful people we have in our system, from our maintenance and operations staff to nutrition services to teachers and paraeducators in the classroom throughout the district. And you can see from this slide that the general fund not only covers staffing, but our supplies and materials, purchase services. We also have travel and a little bit of capital outlay in this graph as well. Okay, next slide. So here we have our milestones, and Liz, you can go ahead and click one more time. We have our milestones for decision making and gathering input, and so this kind of chronicles our year of budgeting. So it starts off in August when you as a board approve our budget, and then it goes into October where we have our enrollment projections, and then Sean tells us about the year-end closeout and what our fund balance is. We move on to November, and we have preliminary budget reduction amounts identified. We also talk to our leadership team. We have our board budget committee meetings and our association budget committee meetings as well. We begin developing a preliminary budget plan, and then there it is. There's the other click there. We are in January where we've started our legislative budget session, and we know that it's a short session, so we only have until March when the state legislative budget session ends, and we are also at that time notifying impacted staff of what next year will bring. May we finalize budget reductions. In June we really start the process all over again, where we start talking about the 26-27 preliminary budget, and then August is the approval of that. So it's a whole process. And next slide. I really like how this system works. There's not a lot of clicking on my end. Things are moving in the right direction. Liz has it completely under control. It's good. And this gets us to the big number. So the operational budget reduction target, $5.4 million for the 26-27 school year. And you can see where the breakdown of that funding lies. $2.5 million is in our basic education allocation, and that is where we've spent the majority of the last 3 years in budget reductions in this BE8 world. This year we have a new twist to our budget reduction process, and that is the federal funding and the dollars therein. The budget reduction factors, as they're listed there: declining enrollment. We'll show a little bit of some of the graphs of this year's count results and the projections for the years to come. You've already seen some of these, so it'll be a little bit of review. We also have inflationary costs outpacing our current funding. We know that in the funding that the state provides us an average cost of education through the prototypical funding model, and the district covers the rest through federal and local dollars, including salaries, benefits, insurance premiums, and the MSOC there listed as material supplies and operating costs. And this year, the new wrinkle is the loss of federal funding, and this is where we are focusing on areas in our special programming where this funding was held last July. So we have dollars that are related to Title I funding, Part C, Title II funding, Part A, Title III funding, Part A, and Title IV, Parts A and B are all in that category there. So this funding has been highly debated at the national level, which we know, and all indications lead us to believe that with the dismantling of the Department of Education, this funding will go away, if not this year, then potentially next year. Sorry, yeah.
So you said the previous slide had 12.1 federal dollars that we, or 12.1 million dollars that we get from the federal government. So the 2.9 that we're cutting going to next year is, so we'll go down to 9.2, and then you're saying potentially we're losing the additional, that new 9.2 as well, or
No.
Not at this time?
The 2.9 will either be, we will either lose that for next year, 26, 27, or the following year, 27.
Got it.
Yep, no, thank you.
We're not, yeah. So we're not talking about the other 9.2 that we're still doing.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
At least as based on what we know
Sure,
at this point.
sure.
And so the next milestone that we have in this work is January 30th, where Congress needs to make a decision on whether they're going to move forward with a balanced budget, or if they're going to do a continuation of a continuance, or if we're going to shut down the government once again. So we've got another milestone that's in front of us with that work. So next slide, please. So areas of reduction. So in the world of education, budget reductions refer a lot to staffing much of the time, as we talked about. We love our staff and just want to share that there are hard and uncomfortable conversations being had at any time when we discuss this. And there are feelings behind each of these bullets, which is important for us to remind ourselves. However, we need to ensure to the board, to our community, that we are doing the good hard work, being good stewards of our funds that we receive, and that's important. But in this list, we have the restructuring of district office administration, and we have shared this information with our staff and have many district office administrators who will be shifting back into buildings for a portion of the work that they currently do at the district office and in support of our students, staff, and families in those buildings as well. And the second bullet, restructuring our building administration to really make these shifts happen. Some of our elementary assistant principals will be going back to teaching contracts or positions in the buildings or elsewhere as well. We also, every year, we take very intentional time to look at our retirements and resignations, really to see if there are any areas where there might be additional reductions that can be made. And also as we do that, it does make room for some of the shifting that has to happen as we move administrators out of the district office and into buildings to support. Another bullet there, bullet 4, staffing modifications. There will be additional staffing modifications in our certificated and classified ranks that will happen in the next few months. And as you all know, we always run a budget on 100% staffing. So there will be some unfilled positions that we'll take back into the budget as well. For instance, this year we struggled to fill a few school nurse positions. So therefore we'll have, which we have filled, which has been great just recently, but we'll have 5 months of budget that we can put back into our funds because of those situations. And then we always have MSOC on there, and we know that Sean has done a great job with diving into the budget and removing as much of the, I won't say fluff, it's definitely not fluff. You have a word for it that I shouldn't be using right now, but he has clawed back a lot of the MSOCs there and made a major dent in that work. So there'll be a few contracts that we already know of that will be on their way out of our system that will dive into that area. And then I think importantly, and this is something that has been a recurring conversation for us as a board, is where are we looking at growth? How are we combating declining enrollment? How are we taking an active stance and being just realizing that we're in competition for our students in a variety of ways, and really making areas that will bring students back to the district or create new opportunities for people that are maybe not currently in our system. Some examples of that have been Valley Academy, moving them to a larger space where they've been able to grow. That helped us this year to the tune of 77 additional students, which has been fascinating and fantastic. Our Accelerated Pathways program has also encouraged more students potentially to stay on site at Wenatchee High School and continue their work there. So we're very happy with those, and I have another slide that we'll share on some of those additional areas as well. And we really want to take the time to share with our community that for the 26-27 school year, there's no plan for any school closures or major restructuring that would impact our schools moving forward. So just want to be clear with that indication that there are no surprises at this point. Or the foreseeable future, no surprises. Let's leave it there. Next slide, Liz. I have some graphs and some data to share with you that you've seen before, but I just wanted to pause in case there were some questions or comments that I might be able to address or write down to come back later.
I believe the session started yesterday, and there was a press conference. Do we anticipate any cuts to EA funding from the state level?
You know, I don't know if we anticipate cuts, but there are programs, at least, and everything that we're hearing and learning right now is based off the governor's proposal. So one of the areas that we're watching right now is transition to kindergarten. They're saying, I think the governor's proposal was 25%, right, Sean? I'm looking. Yeah. Okay, and Sean does have a legislative update on the 27th as well. So he'll give us some more of that. But right now, TK is one of them. What are some of the other areas that we've been watching, Sean?
Local effort systems, which
Correct.
falls outside of basic education.
Gotcha. Okay, so those are the two big ones right now that we're seeing, and we'll keep close contact on that and let you know. Thank you. Good question. Okay, Liz, next slide. Okay, this is a slide that you saw in October, and we know that there are a couple of major items that impact our numbers and budgets in creating our declining enrollment debacle. Current birth rates in the Wenatchee School District are one of those, and you can see here on the graph that the top line represents the Wenatchee birth rate, the births in the Wenatchee School District, and then the lower line represents what we refer to as a capture rate. And so of all the students that are born in the Wenatchee School District, the lower line is the number that we capture in the Wenatchee School District. And you can see they kind of run, they kind of run parallel with each other for the most part, but there are some gaps and abnormalities along the way. But pay attention to the 2020 birth rate there, where we saw a 71 student decline in our birth rates in the Wenatchee School District. And you can see where the capture rate relates to 381 students in our October count. And you can see that there's a little bit of a decline in the next few years, and then we look like we might have some optimistic hope there in 29-30 that we like to find and look for. But a lot of what we're aligning ourselves to is around grade levels of around 400. And so I'll just keep on moving here. That's all I was going to say. Okay, next slide, Liz. Okay, the next slide shows our enrollment decline slope, which shows the last 10 years of enrollment decline equating 1,119 students. And then, of course, the factors that coincide with that as well. Then we have last year's, this year, and then our 4 years of projections that equal another 884 students. And you've seen the slide before, but it's important for us to outline that we know what the next few years look like, and we know how to plan for that work. It is a whopping 2,003 students in the last 15 years with our projections. Again, the good news is that we're fighting back and embracing opportunities for enrollment increases where we can. However, as much as we prepare to fight back, we still will be impacted by the new normal of our birth rates, bringing in roughly classes of 400 students in our kinder. So I'll show you a graph that you have seen before as well that kind of tells us gone are the days of the 500 plus classes for the foreseeable future. Fourth grade has our last 500 plus class and 510 students right now. So next slide, Liz. As I mentioned, as we're adapting and responding to the shift in enrollment, preparing our system for the long haul, we asked Sean to outline what the next many years might look like if we were to look at our system as having 400 student population grade level classes and our 500 plus student graduation, our classes graduating out. And this is kind of what that trend looks like. Now the next 4 years are the steepest part of that curve. So you can see that it kind of slows down a little bit, and then we get to 2037 and we start to see a little bit of an incline. But this is a graph that charts the Wenatchee School District adjusting to roughly 400 students per grade level. And click one more time. It shows, or a couple more times maybe. Boom, okay, right there. So it shows system alignment in 2037, 38. And then the next one is just kind of a statement that I think that we can prepare. Go ahead and click one more. And I just think of the last few years of budget reductions in the Wenatchee School District and what we project for next year. We really can't $2.5 million every year our way out of this. So we're gonna need to be talking about what does this look like as a Wenatchee School District as we are preparing for this slope. And of course, these are projections. They are not based on anything other than what we see in birth rate data and then extrapolating that over time. We're going to be watching this, but one of the things that we need to be thinking about is what needs to happen in our system to increase efficiencies and staffing to enrollment over time. And that's the work that we need to do and the hard work that we're currently doing. We're not kicking any proverbial cans down any roads. We are doing that hard work. But one of the things I do want to tee up is that President Jackson and I have been talking about our restructuring committee that is actively working on potentially looking at what are the next steps for the Wenatchee School District down the road. We know that we need to look at boundaries. We know that we need to look at school efficiencies and school sizes and what that looks like, but having that team make a presentation to the board in the next couple of months is on our radar as well, and that'd be hugely important. Okay, next slide please. This is working great. This is good. So you've seen this information. You can go ahead and click the next slide. You can see there's our 381 kinder class. One more click shows our last fourth grade 500 plus class. And then at the bottom, you should see one more click. This is where we get the 884 students, and it shows that projection from this year and the subsequent 4 years. So just a different way of looking at the data. You've seen this information, but I think it's important to share as we talk about budget reduction. Next slide, Liz. Another way graphically to look at the same data, but it's broken down by grade levels as opposed to, or by grade bands as opposed to individual grade levels. Liz, one more click is going to get us to this year's total 86. Another click is going to get us to the total change, 884, just looking at it in a different graphical form. Okay, next click. This one's going to take us a little bit. We're going to be great though. Budget communication. What have we shared with our staff? What have we shared with our team? What have we shared with the board? So next click there should show us, we had a fund balance report on the, in October to the board. Next click. October enrollment, also in October, which is October 28th. Next click. End of year finance report. Next click. Wenatchee School District leadership meeting in December. Next click. We also have our 25-26 board budget committee meetings, which are ongoing. Next click. 25-26 association budget committee meetings. We will have our first one will be on Wednesday, tomorrow. Our first one is tomorrow. We meant to get in December, but everyone's schedule was not able to make that, so we'll do our first one tomorrow. They'll receive roughly the same information that you are all receiving right now. Next click. Ongoing budget bite videos. Next click. Board budget update in January. That's today. Staff, we'll have a staff update also in January as well. And I will never do that again to you, Liz. That's a lot of work. Yeah. And then one more click, staff update, and then one final click. Enrollment projections to the board on January 27th there. I know, there it is. All right. And this next slide, Liz, if you don't mind, is really us taking a moment to remember the challenges of the budget reduction process. And this is not a celebration, but I think that it is a reminder of the work. And as you can see, the work that I'll be doing as superintendent for what appears to be the rest of my career, to some degree. I hope I make it to 2037, we'll see. I'm not 37, so anyway. But it's heavy lifting, and it has an impact on our students and our staff and our entire community. So it is, we just need to honor that this work has happened, and most often 80% of a lot of this budget reduction has been staff members in our system in some way, shape, or form. And then the next click, Liz, adds on what we project for next year, and then a grand total for the 4-year will be one more click, Liz. So $21 million in 4 years of budget reduction for the Wenatchee School District. It needs to be shared with folks that we're doing what we need to be doing to align our system. And then next slide, Liz. I shared with you earlier that I would be talking about opportunities for future growth, and I do want to share what those ideas are at this point, and excited for the opportunities that they represent for us. So one more click, all in one shot. So we've been working as efficiently as possible, trying to think differently about programming, trying to be innovative, trying to be creative in ways that impact the student experience as little as possible, but we are excited about some of the opportunities. So we are engaging in some new advertising opportunities in the Wenatchee School District, and maybe you have seen the new billboard out in North Wenatchee. Please drive by and check it out. So it is, Diana, is it on the Huck North side or it's on the Huck North
Yeah,
side?
so if you're heading north on Wenatchee Avenue, it's on the Huck North side.
Perfect. And so, yeah, so check that out. It's in English in January. It'll be in Spanish in a different location in February. So that's great. We'll be doing some other work with dual language later in the spring, which we're excited about. And really what this is about is it's about sharing the unique opportunities that the Wenatchee School District has, not only to our own district, but to people that are traveling through our area. We will be doing more staffing for choicing in the district, not necessarily out of the district, but in the district is our goal. But when we do this, it allows us to ensure that people that want to be part of what we're doing in the Wenatchee School District have an opportunity to be part of what we're doing. We've had some lost opportunities in the last few years, and we've tried to get as, I'll say, as efficient as we can. We have not saved as many opportunities for people wanting to choice in as we need to, and so we're going to work on that. Also, Accelerated Pathways Year 2, we're excited to see and understand what that brings to the district. We have a few different opportunities at Valley Academy next year that we're excited about. The most, I think the most fruitful will be our 9th graders will be able to move to 10th grade, and that's exciting, and they are excited about that opportunity. We also have some additional ALE opportunities. One thing that we are actually starting second semester is we are creating an additional classroom for our Credit Acceleration Program, lovingly known as our CAP program, which has predominantly been at the Tech Center. We'll now have another classroom at Westside High School, which will invite 20 to 25 new students into our district even halfway through this school year. So we're excited about that opportunity. We've changed our registration timeline already. You might have noticed that we have opened registration early and excited about what that means for people that want to come to our district. And Eric shared with me the first day we opened, without even mentioning anything, we had 3 or 4 new registrations. And then we're researching other areas for growth. We're halfway through the 25-26 school year. We know there's going to be other opportunities for growth, and we are excited about embracing those opportunities. Okay, Liz, one more slide. Questions and comments from the board, or anything that I can bring back to you at a later time? I'd love to know that.
The staffing for choice, is that at the building level?
Correct. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, for example, we staff for the students that we know of, and we haven't always predominantly in the last few years when we've tried to be very lean, haven't always had space for folks that want to come over and join what we're doing. So, yeah.
In regards to that, have we ever had like mixed grade classrooms, like 2nd and 3rd grade?
Not in my recent history. We the closest thing to it, I think we've had teachers roll from one classroom to one grade level to another, but not anything that no.
It's been a very long time.
Very long time. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Something to think about.
I mean, aside from Valley, right? So they're doing that.
Right. Correct.
But, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We do it somewhere.
We are.
Yeah. Talk to someone.
And Westside High School does that too.
Okay.
Well, and I think if I remember right, a couple years ago when we were doing these budget reductions and trying to figure things out, we talked about doing some mixed grade classes, but in theory, they don't generally work because you've got the 4th graders wondering why they're the 3rd graders and parents getting, kind of making it more complicated than it's meant to be, but it's not something that's probably off the table forever, but I just remember having that conversation, I feel like a while ago.
Yeah, I think we did. That did come up, and it is definitely challenging, especially when you think of 1 grade level and your extremes in that classroom itself. Then you have 2 grade levels, and you even increase those exponentially. But definitely not something that's off the table.
It just, having worked with choice, how we,
Yeah.
you restrict the numbers for class sizes, and it just made me think, if we get to where you have, enough for half a teacher at one grade and half for, do you combine the classrooms? And just from personal experience, my nephew has been in 2 different years in a combined classroom.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
And successful
And
experience? Great.
He's on grade level. So.
Love hearing that. Okay, that's awesome. And yeah, you have unique experiences with choice in the school district, don't you? Love that. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for your time this evening, and I'll turn it back to President Jackson.
Sounds good. All right, so we're moving on to discussion, and we're starting that with the board committee nominations and appointments. So I was going to kick it off with a little discussion about what they are. According to board policy 1240, no more than 2 board members will serve on any one board appointed committee, and the board chair will appoint board members to serve in each role. So here's a quick overview of what they are and who's doing what right now. So start with the budget committee. The budget committee was created 4 years ago out of a desire for transparency and necessity by Superintendent Eagle. This committee meets with members of the cabinet regularly to receive an update on the overall budget. It is customary for the board president to sit on this committee. I have been on this for almost a whole year, and Julie's been on it for 2 years. The policy committee focuses on district policies. Corey and Kim White co-facilitate this group, and they negotiate, and the committee negotiates necessary updates and revisions from WASA, as well as policy concerns that come up throughout the year. Maria's been on this committee for the past 2 years, and Julie for the last year, is that right? More than that. How many
She's
years?
like 3 or 4 years. 5.
All the years, you've been there for all the years, as far as they go back, okay. All right, so Maria's, you are a tenured member of the committee. You're gonna do the assigning for that one?
Yes.
Okay, the legislative rep, per board policy number 1225 and WASA's legislative representative serves as the contact person and acts as the coordinator of the board's legislative activities. The legislative representative also serves as a board liaison at WASA's General Assembly. The legislative representative, affectionately termed the leg rep, is elected from among its members at the first regular board meeting in even-numbered years this year, and will serve for a period of 2 years. Miranda Skaliski served as for the first year and a half, and Maria finished it out, so you're the current leg rep. So we're electing a new representative for the next 2 years, so that would be until January 2028. And we already figured it out. So now that we have an idea of what each committee does, I will entertain discussion regarding interest in serving on these committees. Discussion.
Quick question, are we still having a facilities and restructure committees?
I think the facilities committee is done, or this iteration of the facilities committee is done. And the restructuring committee does not have a board representative. They gave me, they let me be a special guest at their last meeting, but I think that was enough for me.
We're working on if you can be a full-fledged member. Yes, that's the next discussion.
Okay. So yeah, so not that. And then I asked earlier if we needed a WIAA representative, and it sounds like that's handled for the whole board, so we don't need a rep there. Sorry. You know, just go hang out with BJ sometimes. Be like, hi, I'm the board rep. Okay, so budget committee. I'm the president, so I'd like to stay on it. Anyone else want to do it?
I've enjoyed doing it, that's my favorite of all the committees, so if there's one I could put my name in for, but if there's new blood that wants to get involved, that's fine, but it's kind of in my wheelhouse with municipal financing and stuff, so I've enjoyed that one.
Okay, well, sounds like that's a strong endorsement. A lot of like, yeah. Okay, so budget committee, all locked up. Policy committee, Maria, are you still want to do it? Are you?
Yeah, I mean, I was willing to give it up this year. But I think in the past,
End this streak.
well,
One more here.
wait. So in the past, we've had somebody carry over from the previous year forward, which is the continuity.
Yeah.
Julie, so there's 3 committees, right? Oh, well, Let's Rec, Policy, and Budget, that's it?
Correct.
Okay. Do you want me to continue since you'll be on budget?
I don't particularly care if you want me to be the one that carries over. I know that gives me 2 committees, but
Right.
then you're vice and maybe something or
Well, I mean,
or.
Policy and then Let's Rec, which is a slow.
But I assume
yeah.
we're we would hope to appoint the ledger.
Okay, I think I would nominate Caroline to be a phenomenal ledger. And
The AC.
I think silence.
Perfect.
Um,
So then, I would love to continue on Policy Committee and have Mark be my partner.
Mark, you in for that?
And that way, everybody.
Was that something?
Yeah.
Great. Does that work for everyone?
Make Mark do something.
Mark, yeah.
This is competition.
God, kids. Okay, so it sounds like we're gonna do budget committees will be Julie and I, and then Maria and Mark will be on the policy committee, and then our ledger rep will be Caroline. Fantastic. Yeah, that was a lot more fun then. I don't get to hang out with my siblings very often, but that felt they have the same energy. But and then that moves us to the fund balance.
Oh, yes. Correct. So we have Executive Director of Business and Finance, Sean Fitzgerald, also known as the main event. We've asked Sean, actually we as in President Jackson and I have asked Sean to come back and share his presentation on fund balance with the board for discussion. And the conversation tonight will inform whether or not the policy committee needs to take on board policy 6022 on the school district's minimum fund balance. Excited about that. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. President Jackson, members of the board, Dr. Cowherd, it's great to be here tonight to present once again on the minimum fund balance. This is a very similar slideshow that you've seen in the past, but I will point out some of the updates in it, but it also kind of reflects the consistency that we've been discussing and presenting since last May. So we really see the consistent and unchanged nature around this discussion. Next slide, please. So the goals of the minimum fund balance provide sufficient cash flow for daily financial operations, secure and maintain investment grade bond rating, which again, in the past we've seen with our refinancing of our one outstanding bond, which led to, one, we were maintaining our Moody's rating, but also saving taxpayer dollars of $6.6 million over the remaining life of the bond term. Offset significant economic downturns or revenue shortfalls, and provide funds for unforeseen expenditures related to emergencies. So the question that's posed for all school district boards is, what is the minimum amount of reserves the district needs to achieve these goals? Next slide, please. So some history. Our current policy was 5% of current year expenditures was adopted in August of 2011. And so there's been just a few minor changes that have occurred since then. Our enrollment peaked in 2015-16 at 7,655. Our current enrollment is at 6,447. Assessed value, which affects both our levy rate and local effort assistance funding. You can see back in 2011, the assessed value that's determined by our county assessor for the district area was at $3.7 billion. The 2026 projection is 8.5. And then also this policy was adopted before McCleary. So again, that case was decided by the Washington State Supreme Court in January of 2012. But we didn't see the actual McCleary changes. They were not implemented until 2018-19. So since this was adopted, we've undergone, the entire funding structure of school districts has been overhauled and renovated many times over. And then also this was again before the pandemic. And again, at the same time, we had our same infrastructure, but it was 14 years younger. Next slide, please. So our what we're kind of Current factors we're looking at, this is our current situation. We've seen the historical context, but enrollment decline, as we've seen in Corey's presentation, enrollment continues to decline both in actual and our projected numbers. Local effort assistance fluctuates annually based on enrollment and assessed value, and if the governor's budget proposal goes its way, we could see cuts to funding at LEA. Increasing inflationary costs continue to outpace state's funding, so for example, insurance premiums. Also, in a previous budget presentation, we had our federal funding uncertainty. It is January of 2026, and we still do not have a budget at the national level. So the fiscal year for our federal government runs from October 1st to September 30th. So we anticipated a federal budget at the beginning of October, and here we are in mid-January. State funding, so last year in June, we had to access our minimum fund balance reserves to the tune of about $640,000 because the state did not budget sufficient capacity in its state budget. We did receive that funding in July of the next month at the start of the new biennium and the new budget. But again, when we were notified of that shortfall, the response from OSPI was like, well, you just got to use your fund balance reserves. Sorry, we can't help you. And so no one was aware of that, but we had adequate reserves on hand to cover that. Currently, as we discussed briefly, the state legislative session began yesterday, January 12th, and it's projected to go on through March 12th. Right now, the state is projecting a $2.3 billion deficit. And for the current legislative session, we have legislators already discussing additional tax increases and cuts to services. Maintenance and operations, again, aging infrastructure, both preventative and emergency projects. For the last couple of years, we've transferred roughly $500,000 to our capital projects fund to assist with addressing our infrastructure issues. And then again, compliance with unfunded mandates is always a risk. So for example, the Clean Energy Act. This is something the district has to do on its own, and luckily we're receiving funding from the PUD that will assist with our infrastructure audits, but at the same time, this is an unfunded mandate. So while the district is working through this, there is no set aside from state or federal funding that would assist with us complying with this act. Next slide, please. So just for comparisons, so a slight update to this slide. So there is no required minimum fund balance threshold. It is set by the school board. However, as of, I was notified yesterday, news came through that OSPI is looking at proposing a new state law to codify the percentage of fund balance reserves for school districts. This is a very early draft that was sent to school districts. Nothing has been filed or proposed in the legislature, but it looks like OSPI is looking at some sort of RCW for minimum fund balance reserves. I wouldn't say in the near future. I mean, some of the early draft language was saying 2030, but the fact of the matter is nothing is codified now. It is based only on school board decision. But maybe in the near to late future, we could see something where we're complying with an RCW.
Do they have any kind of ballpark on what that would be, or do we have any insight into that?
So what just was, sent via email yesterday was you were looking at setting kind of a standard based on enrollment. So if you're above 2,000 students, they were looking at, both a minimum and a maximum fund balance reserve between 6 and 12% based on your prior year apportionment revenues. So that would be what we received from this, a percentage of what we received from state funding from the prior year. So, but again, very rough draft. Yeah. So again, here the district's current policy is 5% of total expenditures, and as you can see, would not cover our average monthly expenditures, which was last year came around to, for our average monthly expenditures for the 2024-25 school year, was about $10.8 million. If we compare that to our minimum fund balance reserves, that's about 8%, which is also currently Eastmont School District's policy. And then we have this, again, comparisons, Moody's Investment, who also handle our bond investment ratings. They recommend 10.5%. And then you have, again, the State Auditor's Office and our Governmental Finance Officers Association recommending 60 days of cash reserves, which would translate to about 21.6 million, which is more than our entire fund balance. So again, it is a judgment call, and so we can take these recommendations into account, and some are more feasible than others. However, sufficient reserves are needed to cover district expenditures and mitigate risk between October and April. And again, healthy and stable financial fund balances play a factor in the district's creditworthiness, and we cannot rely on our restricted fund balances to address revenue shortfalls or unanticipated expenditures. Next slide, please. So here we have our finishing out where we are with our fund balance for the 2024-25 school year. So again, this is a slide you've seen before, but you kind of see a consistent trend going back the last 4 years. And then we have our dashed red line at the very bottom, which represents our 5% minimum fund balance policy. But as you can see, we have our highest peaks in October, April, July, and August. So in October and April, that's when we receive local property tax collection for our EP&O levy. And then July and August are our highest distribution of state apportionment revenues. And again, we receive those at the end of the school year because the state likes to hold on to the money for as long as it can so it can collect on the interest. So we can get our largest payouts at the end of the school year. And then that apportionment schedule is set by state law. So if you were to look up the RCW, you kind of have the percentage payouts for each month. So the real crux of the factor is between October and April, there's always a downward dip. So those are the times where we receive the least amount of our state apportionment funding, and we're not collecting any property taxes. Well, we are collecting property taxes. They are just not due. They are due on October and April. So we have to rely more and more on our fund balance reserves between October and April. And so generally, historically speaking, March is when we are at our lowest before we jump back up in April. This last year, again, there was an anomaly with what happened last June with the state budget shortfall. So you can see we got that little dip, and then we sprung back up in July. Next slide, please. So once we take out, so the previous slide showed all of our fund balance reserves. So that also included our restricted balances. Here we have our minimum fund balance, our unassigned, and our committed. So you can see those are the reserves that we are generally accessing on a monthly basis to fund day-to-day operations as opposed to restricted portions. So you can see here where we're at. It's like, okay, where are we going to fall? If we're just looking at our unassigned and committed reserves, where are we at in relation to the minimum fund balance? So again, the top line, our purple line, is where we're actually at. So we started the school year at 9.6% total minimum fund balance and finished at 8.2. So looking very good there. However, when we start applying our actual policy and what that would look like in reality, so if we're taking that bottom line, 5%, it's like, well, what if we just drew down, we're actually starting the year at a 5%, minimum fund balance reserves. That's what we have. So you can see how low we can get, especially in June, where we have the unanticipated shortfall. We will only have about $15,000 left in our general fund, unassigned and committed balances at that time, before springing back up in July and August. And as you can see, we could also finish the year below our minimum fund balance policy. And even with our proposed increase to 6%, we're still falling below. We could still fall below that target for 24-25. However, if we looked at June, we would be in a much stronger, safer position with about $1.3 million in reserves if it were actually the case. So again, if we're exactly following our policy, this is kind of how it would play out for the school year. Next slide, please. So again, here's our budget and forecast. These are the numbers presented back in August. So we have our 5% minimum fund balance. As you can see, really the key numbers or key row in this presentation is the unassigned balance at the very bottom. As you can see, we're slowly drawing down on that unassigned fund balance. These budget and forecasts do take into account budget reductions. And so we can see 26, 27 through 2029, that change in fund balance, we're drawing down much less and less. So we can see the impact of our passing our new levy is really helping to mitigate the drawdown of the fund balance, but ultimately, due to continuing enrollment decline and inflation, you can see that we would continue to draw down on our unassigned balance. Next slide, please. And then again, here is updated budget and forecast. We have a 6% minimum fund balance. So we can see in the 27-28 and the 28-29 school year that we would be, you see the negative numbers both in the unassigned row. So this is demonstrating that we would need to have to do additional budget reductions because we want to see that unassigned balance at 0 or more. So anytime there's a negative number, that means we've used up all of our unassigned balance. We would be impacting other fund balance reserves, which we can't use based on the restricted purposes. So that's kind of factoring in, okay, even when we're drawing down year after year, additional reductions may be needed to stay above, to maintain healthy minimum fund balance reserves. Next slide. So again, each percentage of, by increasing the minimum fund balance, you're shifting about $1.3 million from the unassigned balance to the minimum fund balance. Fluctuates annually based on budgeted expenditures. Right now our goal is, again, just to increase it gradually to avoid unnecessary budget reductions. And then the goal would be to maintain the minimum fund balance at or above policy level at year end. Next slide. So just to recap, what are we looking at? What is, again, the question we need to ask ourselves, what is the minimum amount of reserves? The district needs to operate during the school year and have sufficient reserves to address risks. Again, this is a long-term financial planning goals that we're looking at and trying to set. We need to ask ourselves, is 5% an adequate amount? And again, every year the district is drawing down fund reserves to mitigate budget reductions. And then we are doing this both in the face of continued actual and projected enrollment decline, and then continuing funding uncertainty at both the federal and state levels. Next slide, please. Any questions?
Yeah, can we turn all those graphs the other way? What? It just keeps going up.
To the right.
I mean, it seems like with the uncertainty we have and the need, because again, we talked about this last time, if we go to 0, we can take a loan from the state, but we end up like paying extra on top of that.
Yeah, you would be, and it's not necessarily that you would be successful, but essentially you're petitioning OSPI for an advance in state apportionment funds. So we would receive that advance to cover our operations to make payroll essentially, and then we're gonna have to pay that money back on interest. So yeah, so you get it like a month earlier, but you're gonna be billed a month with interest.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, so it seems like that graph where you're saying at this we go below 0 is not something that is very attractive to anyone.
No.
And with my understanding is we're anytime we have something that goes over, knowing we're gonna get the money, the state money for the tech center, right? Like we have to cover that in the meantime.
Yeah.
And if we don't have money there to cover, that's a real bad place to be.
Yes. Yeah.
And these forecasts are with the assumption that we are not going to have any rollovers, like any extra money?
Yeah, I assume when I build the budget, I mean, one of the factors I do in my methodologies, I assume that there's gonna be no like state bailout, you know, or they're not gonna increase, essentially they're not gonna increase our funding, it's gonna remain the status quo, yeah. So therefore, if they do increase their funding from us, it helps us improve our projections, yeah.
Is there any way anyone's working on legislation to help us get our apportionments sooner so that we can start investing them in interest and we can capitalize on the interest that is accruing? Because right now the state is just using it for their purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get the bare minimum, but if we could get our apportionments sooner and put it in our interest-bearing accounts, then that would cover some, I mean.
Yeah, we would be earning the interest and that would be going towards our reserves, yeah.
Right.
So currently, no, I don't see any sort of proposal from the legislature regarding that. Yeah.
So on that note, so we don't control our assigned reserve, where we invest it. We cannot invest it.
So, it's already invested, so.
The state has it.
So the state treasurer has it, when it's distributed, essentially it's staying with the county treasurer. And then, so our county treasurer acts as our banker, and any interest the county treasurer is earning on that, we get that. But if it stays with the state, they get the interest.
Let's vote on that.
So, and the outlook, I mean, all school districts last year dodged a bullet. I mean, one of the things that had a lot of momentum last year in the legislature was actually further delay. They wanted to amend the apportionment schedule and further delay payment out. So again, it would just be shifting more and more of our apportionment payout to July and August. And finally that bill was defeated, but that would have put not only the school district, but other school districts that are, you know, in a severe financial strain in very more difficult circumstances between October and April.
I mean, I don't have any more questions, but to me, it doesn't make sense. And I, you know, I was the one that brought it up several months ago because when I think about, you know, if something were to happen, we can't make payroll on the minimum fund balance of 5% for a month,
Yes.
right? We only have 2 weeks worth.
Yeah.
And so that's very troubling to me. But at the same time, increasing it to say 6%, I'm not. Given our current projections with enrollment, it would be another blow to our district and our staffing. So how, I mean, you know, how do we balance that? I'm thinking, can we do 5.5%? And that would get us through maybe 3 more years before we hit a 0 in the unassigned, right?
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the scenarios I showed it's like, well, what would we look like if we were operating at 5%? So we started the school year at 8.2%, but if we started at 5%, we would have no wiggle room at all, especially in June. Or, you know, in a couple weeks, at the next board meeting, I'll be talking about transferring funds to the capital projects to help the Skills Center. I mean, those funds would not be available if we were strictly operating, if we actually had a 5% fund balance, if we were strictly following that, we would not have sufficient funds to transfer over to cover the Skills Center project.
And I think, you know, as we move closer to passing a bond, that's also what we need to be thinking.
Well, the difference between a bond, so that's a great question, is so what we have at the Skills Center is a grant.
Okay.
So that is based on a reimbursement basis. So we pay first, then we get reimbursed. With a bond, if you pass a bond, you get all the money up front.
Okay, cool.
And then you pay back on the principal and interest over 15, 20, 30 years.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I'll just kind of echo what Maria was getting at is, I think it would be great if we could increase our fund balance because that would be the responsible things to do, but it doesn't feel responsible at the sacrifice of people and operations to bolster our savings account. And so it's like I struggle with it because if we have the ability to project, excess funds in a year, then I think we should put together a goal policy that says if we have excess, they'll be put in our fund balance, and strive for a particular balance over time, but it doesn't feel achievable at this stage, given what we're going through and the cuts and the various things, because, I don't wanna compromise the services to our students.
But I mean, yes, but like, if we're really legitimately getting to like no wiggle room, that's a really dangerous number to have. Like I see what you're saying, like 5.5, but like at some point, 0 to me is not, I don't want to default, I don't want people to not get paid, we saved jobs, but no one got a paycheck. Doesn't seem like that's a better option. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be, I think the information is, you've given us good information, I don't have any more questions, it's just more like a wrestling with, what does this mean for our district, what does it mean for our staffing, because like you said, we're cutting jobs, but to protect the paychecks for everyone. It's just 6, 7.
I mean, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, you can budget really conservatively, hoping that we have a little extra bucket of money at the end to where we continuously build that unassigned money. To that, maybe in a year or two, we could be like, oh yeah, now we can make it to 6%. I don't know, I'd rather have that push, right? Like build it outside of the policy. And then at some point, if we're capable to transition to the policy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I support, that's why I say, kind of phrase it like a goal. We're going to, over time, try and put these excesses in, and then when we get to 6%, say, okay, our policy now is 6% and we'll never drop below the 6% we've now accumulated, but I struggle with intentionally saving at this stage right now to the sacrifice of more jobs and programs and things. And the one question I have is, I know we're talking about our unrestricted, and we do have various funds. Can we do if it got so dire, could we do an interfund loan to ourselves that we would have to pay back? I understand that, but do we have enough restricted fund balance where we could do an interfund loan just to bridge a gap?
It would not be possible, legally possible.
So if we're going to 6%, then we have another roof issue, and we need $160,000 again, which is what happened at the high school, and we're cruising in June at 0, we can't do that. Like, there's no, even though it's monies and savings, we wouldn't be able to touch it.
Even if we load it back to ourselves?
So I guess where were we loading the money from? So for example, it's like restricted funding is skill center, some sort of carryover. A lot of these things are are like federal grants. Those are things that it's like, if we even want to use this money, we can't, because we are just legally prevented from doing that. A lot of times, if you're seeing school districts, they're loaning from they're doing temporary loan. Generally, you're going to see it from your capital projects fund. People are loaning they're taking a loan from their capital projects and going to their general. But the problem is we're transferring money from our general fund to our capital projects. So that's not an option. And then, someone will look at our debt service fund or ASB, it's like, oh, you have money in there. It's like, well, it's not legally permissible to transfer funds from ASB or debt service to your general fund, even in a loan format.
Well, and I guess that's what I was trying to envision and now I see maybe the wrinkles of, if there's federal funding, we probably can't, but, in a municipal context, periodically, you can interfund loan, proper documentation with interest paid back, but loan from, say, your water sewer revenue fund into your general fund, but those aren't necessarily federally funded or grant funded, it's revenue funded, or you do have to pay it back because it's a loan, but you can do that in some municipal context, so I was just curious.
No, that's, the only, probably, if we were, again, in the situation as we previously discussed, it would probably be petitioning the state OSPI for, an advance payment from apportionment.
Okay, this might be a really stupid question. can't we just vote to lower our reserve policy back to 5% and then freeze up that money?
That's possible too.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't a question. I guess it's not like our retirement plan that once you go up there, you can't go back down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, how about if we went to 6% right now, how, like, 'cause that would directly affect staffing, I would assume, so how many people would that?
It would not, right now, it would not impact anyone. So what we're looking at is, if we're looking at forecast, we'd probably look at some sort of, and I think on the previous slide, it was like 27, 20, it was like
Slide 9.
slide 9,
If you want to.
go back. Thanks, Liz. Yeah, here. So if we take that number, so again, we can see like 25, 26. So our current budget is based on 5%. So 5% is locked into this year for 25, 26. If we move to 26, 27, you can see the change in the bottom couple rows, minimum fund balance versus unassigned. That 1.7 goes down to 137,000. Looks like it did disappear, it moved to the minimum fund balance. So right there, and then 27, 28, as we continue based on this forecast, we draw down, we're at a negative 85,000 at unassigned. So that means we're falling below our minimum fund balance reserves. So based on whatever reductions we're doing, we're probably going to say reduction factors would include declining enrollment, inflationary costs, and we have to do $85,000 in additional reductions to maintain our minimum fund balance reserves. So that's what that forecast is saying here.
Which could be one FTE,
Yep, correct.
and then the 600,000, that's
Yep,
a lot more.
yes.
On the slide before that, where we saw the numbers, if we stay at 5%, I was just trying to extrapolate out how far we thought before we hit the red at 5%.
So here, we stay above the red. So
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how far out would we be past this?
Yeah.
In the 30s, we're gonna hit red again.
well, there again, a number of factors because by 29, 30, we're going out for new levy. And, that could change our whole discussion as well. And, probably with likely increased assessed value, that may help mitigate. But again, putting it out, whatever, we can keep projecting out. But as the farther we go out, there's going to be more factors. But again, we could see an up boost in 29, 30 as well with the new levy. But again,
In 29, 30, we get more babies. So,
yeah.
enrollment goes up all of a sudden. I'm going back to Corey's presentation, but like.
The other factor, that's actually a good segue, Tucker, is. But, again, the steepest part of the enrollment decline is occurring in the next 4 or 5 years. I mean, we talk about 2037, but if we're able to extrapolate that out, I think 29, going off the top of my head here, if we're going to 29, if we're looking at 2029 or the 2033 one, enrollment decline between then and out to 2037, 38, that's more like a decline of 250 students. So next 4 to 5 years, 884, and then the next few years after that, it's going to be 250 cumulative, as opposed to what we kind of experience every year. So again, that's going to play a big factor on fund balance and reductions as well.
But if our enrollments are going down, so will the amount required based on the policy?
Well, the amount will change, it'll fluctuate annually based on whether we're, like if we just tag it to budgeted expenditures. So as expenditures decrease, that minimum fund balance reserve will also decrease just because it's based on a percentage.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now, our apportionment is going down faster than our apportionment is going down, but our costs are not going down as fast, right? So every year, it gets a little bit more expensive to run the district than what we are getting from
Correct.
from our different revenue sources.
Correct.
So we're constantly kind of in this meeting where we're going down in our money that's in, and our money that's going out is not going down at the same rate. So at some point, we're gonna have to hit the wall of, we need to stop. We can't afford to keep having our, we're gonna have to start looking at, if it's FTE, if it's MSOC, if it's whatever, we've gotta make a cut at some point. So we're just deciding when we hit that line.
So Sean, based on your expertise and the CFO of this school district, what do you recommend?
I recommend that district move to 60%.
Just to clarify, the numbers you're showing are including our enrollment projections. They're including all of our other projections. Is it also addressing proposed cuts to match those enrollments?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, so like that slide already includes, if we have 200 fewer students, that's this X number of FTE, that's already worked in.
Yes.
Well, and I guess, so just because we change the policy now doesn't mean it can't be revised in a year or two. Right, Mark?
That's right. I'm glad I'm on that committee, yeah. Well, and if we get to that point where we're looking at, say, another $2.5 million budget reduction projection, and that does take us below that threshold, we could have that conversation of what that looks like, and take us back down to 5%. That's always an option. Good point.
So could we make this change now or within the next month, adopt a 6% fund balance requirement without materially changing our staffing operations for the foreseeable rest of the year?
Yes.
And your projections to next year?
Yes.
Next year.
So a change in policy would be in effect this current academic fiscal year.
Yes.
And you feel comfortable, you would feel comfortable with that?
Yes.
I feel more comfortable, you feel more comfortable.
Let's think about over here, your personnel side. How do we feel?
We will eventually, we'll have to adopt.
I mean, our norm has been 5% as far as I can remember, right? It's always been 5%. Knowing that we can always revert to that 5%, before the state controls it, or tries to, just knowing that we have that flexibility of, I mean, maybe some verbiage is included in the policy.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, could we do it like it's a renewable 6% fund balance, and so we have to revisit it every 2 years or something to decide if this is the level, or if we do need to have a reversionary.
I mean, it seems like right now, we can make this change, reserve the money that doesn't impact us the way we're looking at it this year or next year. And then we have, especially if OSPI makes some kind of minimum, like we don't want to be in a position where that puts us in the red.
Yeah.
So it seems, but I mean, obviously we're not doing the action right now, but like, it seems like it makes sense to me, reserve the money while we can, and then it gives us the flexibility to make that adjustment later with the money in our bank, as opposed to trying to scramble and backfill.
So technically, we would have about 2 years if we start this academic year before we can really tell if we're gonna need to adjust.
Correct.
And that would give us plenty of time to not only do the budget reductions that we need to for the 26-27 school year, but also the areas where we're hoping to increase growth in the school district as well, and see where we land. So we can monitor that very closely.
Positive presupposition.
Yeah, and I think it might be helpful then in the future years of budget discussions then to talk about make sure that that conversation is had when we're doing the budget reduction, saying this is what it looks like at our fund balance.
Yes.
If we were to dip into this or reduce it in any way to free up some additional funding, these would be, you know, the less impactful or the things, and then we can decide, yeah, you know, we've been a couple of years, like, we can adjust.
Last question, Sean.
Mhm.
You feel really, really confident that in June, we will not need to borrow money?
This June?
Or the next, well, this June, yes, this June. Let's go 1 year at a time.
No, we're not borrowing money in June.
You said no, I was like, what?
I know.
Well, you went payroll.
Well, and the process for moving forward, based on this conversation, is policy 6022 would then go to the policy committee for further discussion, and it would come to this board again for first read and then second read. So there are a couple of, if anyone is not sure or unclear, then we can provide more information as we move toward that.
I was just saying, I feel like we did a lot of work on like discussing it. So I mean, is everyone good moving past the discussion, knowing that we're going to see it 2 more times?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Main event, appreciate it.
Thanks, Sean.
Oh, and then again. All right, so action, our first action, or only action of the night, is resolution number 0126, conveyance of right-of-way on Red Apple Road. It was kind of, Corey's been giving us a lot of stuff. Is everyone ready to go? All right, cool. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I move that we approve resolution number 1-26. Second.
All right, it's been moved by Maria and seconded by Julie. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, motion carries.
All right.
And it's you, Corey.
Okay, superintendent report. I mentioned this earlier, the Accelerated Pathways marketing campaign, but starting this month, we're launching an advertising campaign focused on promoting our Accelerated Pathways program at WHS with the aim of proactively attracting new students to enroll in this one-of-a-kind program in our region and potentially earn their AA without ever leaving the high school. Students take rigorous college-level courses, enjoy a half-day schedule, have no fees, and do not miss out on the high school experience. So hopefully you'll see the billboards soon. It's exciting. Nice job on that, Diana. As I mentioned in our weekly update, the heavy rains in December brought about a host of known and unknown roof situations that have needed to be addressed quickly. So, and most of that impact on the costly nature has been at Wenatchee High School, which you mentioned, the $160,000 mark that we've been at. So we're working, we're excited that it's not raining right now. This is good. But Sean and I are working with Brian Brockman, our maintenance and operations, to make sure to mitigate that. One of the things we're also doing, which is exciting, is roof audits. We are looking for potential new problems to address when we have people on the roof, so we can do that now as opposed to the next time that we have heavy rains. Bond RFQs, last week, it was last week, we received 9 submissions from architectural firms who would like to be part of our pre-bond engagement process with our community for our 2026 bond in November. And so that was great to get 9. We moved 5 forward that will be interviewing for this partnership January 22nd. So we're very excited about that. And our goal this spring is to engage our community, do tours at Wenatchee High School, and then learn from our community what they'd like to see in the next 50-year high school in Wenatchee. We're really excited about that. And the last one I have is we have some administrator openings. So with the announcement of a retirement of Jeff Jager at Mission View Elementary, we'll have a principal position that will be posted there. So it feels like the end of a great era at Mission View with Jeff Jager moving on. We also have Donna Moser continues to lead Wenatchee High School as our interim principal at Wenatchee High School. We'll honor our commitment to open this position at Wenatchee High School. As we do that, we have been thrilled with the continuity of leadership at Wenatchee High School under Principal Moser. And the transition from Principal Anderson to Moser has been excellent. Mrs. Mosier is planning on applying for the continuing principal position as well, which is also great for us. So just a couple of announcements as we move forward. Those will be posted in the next week or so. Is that right, Gilly? Okay. Excellent. And that is it for superintendent's report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We got to move on to board communication. Mark, you want to take it away?
Oh.
I know.
Well, not a lot to update, but I did want to congratulate Caroline, who was cast in Legally Blonde. So,
They're going to congratulate her on her
unanimously appointed, I would say.
All right, Maria.
I got to attend a couple basketball games over the winter break, and both women, girls and boys basketball has shown a lot of progress. So kudos.
All right, Caroline.
Well, I feel like it's only fair to congratulate Mark then on his role in Legally Blonde as well.
Hey.
Yeah, we're running the show here. Going to West Side High School tomorrow for a visit. Miss Deborah invited, they're doing an assembly, I guess, where the teachers and the students are giving progress reports on what they've been doing this year. So I'm really excited to go and see that. Getting those principal visits scheduled. And then just shout out to Rachel Liver at Wenatchee High School. She invited all of the girls basketball programs at the middle schools to come down and do a shared practice with them in a couple weeks. So great, getting the program back up. Very excited.
Thank you, Julie.
I don't have much.
I don't have much, but speaking of basketball, they hot off the court tonight, 49-23 Wenatchee girls beat Azella. So their first home win in a couple years, and very exciting, a full team effort, as I did not watch. But yeah, it's exciting. It's just to dovetail on what you said, to see the reach out to the younger teams and stuff. And I know BJ's been great as the AD role. And I'll just personally say that my daughter had a pretty rough week in basketball last week after the tournament, but BJ sent her a really nice card. So I thought that personal touch was just above and beyond. So I'm really excited about what collectively they're all doing and what girls and boys basketball are doing. So
That's great. Nice, thank you. I had a couple, Caroline and Corey and I were all at the talent show for before the break for Westside, and the energy was very much family talent show, and so it was super cool to be a part of that. They tried to get me on stage because of my sweater, and I very much declined. But it was really great to see. There were a lot of really talented people, and it was great energy, very supportive. And there was a pieing contest, and no one vomited, so it was a real win-win-win-win-win. And then last week we did the Orchard music program finally had their holiday musical, which a little late to the game, but they had some problems because they weren't able to have enough space. They had beginning band, advanced band, jazz band, and choir. So they had over 80 student participants, and they couldn't find the space. So the high school auditorium accommodated them, and it was great to see everyone on stage. And it's a much more of a official feel, and the kids did great. And kudos to Mr. Sandberg for the music department, also James Wallace and the rest of the auditorium for making us feel welcome and making it just a great show. And then I'm also doing my annual principal walkthroughs, and I really appreciate all the principals taking the time to talk with me. They've been very honest, sharing successes and also struggles. As we're talking about budget and stuff, it's maybe not the greatest timing for me, but it's always nice to go back to the buildings, and it's been really great talking with the principals, and they've been very helpful. So
that's why you're president.
that's why I'm principal.
Yes.
So I guess you're next now. Anyway, but yeah, that was it. I hope everyone has a great night, and meeting's adjourned.